Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wal aqibatu lil muttaqeen, wala udwana illa ala al-zalimeen. Amma ba'd. Alhamdulillah, by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we're able to continue with our Arabic tryouts. And this is day 4, al-yawm al-rabi', and we are on al-harf al-rabi', rabi'ah. We are on the 4th letter by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and that is okay. So before going into the letter tha and the different things you need to know about it, such as its point of articulation, such as its different forms, whether it's a connecting letter or a disconnecting letter. Before we get into all of that, let's do a little bit of recap as what we do before. Remember, repetition is how you're going to retain something. So the more you keep hearing it, the more you keep reviewing it, the more you keep going over it, it's going to stick. So that's normally the goal or the objective of what we're trying to do. So far we explained that when it comes to the Arabic alphabet, that there are only 28 letters. This is why we left that there. There are only 28 letters in the Arabic alphabet. Some argue that there are 29, making the Hamza an independent letter. However, the view that we follow is that there's only 28 and not 29. If you look at when you get advanced within the grammar, you're going to find that there are something called hurufu shams wa hurufu al-qamariyya. They are called the sun letters and the moon letters. And you're going to see that the sun letters and the moon letters are evenly divided. Okay, 14 apiece, which makes 28. So the letters are 28 letters and not 29, even though they say that the Hamza is an independent letter. All right. Tayyib. Also, when learning these letters, they are to be said with different parts, okay, that you have. Some is in the mouth, some is in the throat, some is in the ear, some is from the nose. So it's important that you understand there are 17 points or source of articulation for each for the letters. Okay, there are 17 points of articulation, which has been placed in 5 main sources, and we always talk about them. If you haven't paying attention, you will be able to already put down as I'm going. The first one we said was what? Al-Jof. What is Al-Jof? What is Al-Jof? We said that Al-Jof was the emptiness of the mouth, going back to the end of the throat, okay? The emptiness of the mouth. In other words, it's ear, okay? In other words, it's ear, okay? The second one we said was Al-Lisan, okay? Al-Lisan was the tongue, all right? That's the tongue. So far, we learned how many letters of the tongue? We learned 1 letter of the tongue. All right, that was on Ala Yawm al-Thalith. That was on the 3rd day. We learned harfu ta. All right, that was our first letter of the tongue. The third is ash-shafatain. Ash-shafatain is the lips. Okay, and we learned 1 letter from ash-shafatain so far, which was on al-yawm al-thani, the 2nd day, which was al-harf al-thani, which was the 2nd letter, which is the harf al-ba. All right, the next one is al-halq. Al-halq is the throat. Okay, al-halq is the throat. All right, there are 3 parts to your throat, and there are 2 letters in each part of the throat. Okay, so al-halq is the throat. So there are throat letters. Okay, and then we have what we call al-khayshun. Al-khayshun is the nasal passage. In other words, it's the nth. The nth in Arabic is your nose, okay? That's where we're going to get our gunna sound and all of that, you know, cool stuff. So these five things, these five parts or different parts that you're going to use within, okay, your mouth, your throat, etc. All 17 points of articulation is going to be placed in all of these ones. And we mentioned before that the Jawf have how many? 1. And we mentioned that the Lisan has how many? 10. And we mentioned that the Shafatain is how many? 2. And we mentioned that the Halq has how many? We said it was 3, but it's actually 6, okay? Once you break it down with the different parts of the throat. And we mentioned that Al-Khayshun, all right, is the nose. We mentioned that it has 1. But you're going to find that it also has 2 because there's another letter with this 1 letter that goes with it, all right? So when you add them up, you're going to come to 17 points of articulation. We covered this before. I know it seems redundant, but guess what? We like redundancy. Redundancy makes things stick, okay? So this is how we keep it in our mind. So the next thing we did is we learned that Aleph makes no sound, and that's the name of it. It's the first letter of the Arabic alphabet, and it is in Al-Jawf, okay? We learned that Ta, well, Ba, which is the second letter, we learned that that letter, Ba, it is part of Ash-Shafatain, the lips, and we learned that Ta, all right, is a part of Al-Lisan, okay? A part of Al-Lisan. These are the 3 letters we learned so far. In Arabic letters, you're going to see some letters that may have the same similar. Like, for example, we have 1 ta in front of us. But there's going to be another ta, which isn't a ta, but it's called a ta. All right? Don't get it confused. Sometimes when people write in phonetics, if you don't know what they're writing, you can get confused. So, for example, some people, what they do is they might write phonetics in English. They might put a dot here. If they put a dot here, right, it is to remind the reader that this T with the dot under it is a different ta. It's the ta. It's not this ta we're learning here. And we didn't get the ta yet. All right. So you want to pay attention because they don't have the same point of articulation. They don't have the same characteristics as far as their sound. So it's important that you learn where each one come from so you don't change the meaning of a word by putting the wrong letter where it doesn't need to go at, okay? So likewise, when we get to ha, there are two has you're going to learn, all right? So now that we on the fourth, okay, which is tha. Right off the back, we see that tha look like what? 2 letters that we covered so far. Tha looks just like ba and ta, correct? Let's write ba and ta. So if we write down ba, right, and we write down ta, don't they look exactly the same? Yes. What's the difference? The dots. Ba got 1 dot, it goes beneath. Ta got 2 dots, like a smiley face, and it goes inside. Tha looks just like these 2 letters, but it has 3 dots that goes inside instead of. This is important for you to memorize, right? When you think of ta, think of the number 2. So you tell yourself to remind that it's 2 dots. Ta, 2 is 2 dots. If you think of tha, the same thing, think of the number 3. There are 3 dots instead of 2 dots, okay? And you're going to see that these all have. What's the benefit of knowing that each of these all have the same shape? One is that you know that if you learned one letter in its different forms, then all the ones that have the same shape have the same forms, okay? That means that tha is a what type of letter? Is a connecting letter. It has the same beginning as a ba and a ta, has the same middle as a ba and a ta, and it has the same ending as a ba and a ta. That let us know that it is a connecting letter. So let's put our lines down. All right. So the beginning letter for tha is this, Just the dots. All right. You might see in the number thalathatun, right? Which is 3, right? You see a beginning tha. That's a beginning tha. All right? And that word there, thalathatun, that's a beginning tha. All right? Tight. So, if you look at a middle tha, right? Like in the word hathithun. All right? And the word hathithun, this tha here is our middle tha. The other tha there is an ending tha. Okay? That's an ending tha. That's not a independent tha. Okay? Sometimes when you see an independent tha, it's just the letter itself. And sometimes you might see it written when there's no connecting letters to it. It's a naughty letter there. We learned how many naughty letters so far? We only learned one. That was Aleph. Aleph was what letter we learned that doesn't play well with the other letters. In other words, it doesn't have a beginning form. So it doesn't connect from the beginning. Okay? These letters actually connect. All right? Our ending tha, we see an example of it here. So we don't have to write a word for it. And penmanship is important. And I know it's kind of contradicting because the teacher is not really focusing on too much of penmanship right now. But you do want to practice and practice until you get your penmanship correctly and better. So normally sometimes if you got a workbook, a book physically, something like that, where it has the letters written down, even though they are using, you know, a typesetting type thing, you still want to try to trace it best as possible. Remember, it comes from right to left, and you want to try to mimic it as much as you can when writing the Arabic letters. So I don't want you to get confused and say that I'm not worrying about that, okay? Penmanship is important. So you have that. Now, normally what we do, we add a fourth line. Why? Because we want you to connect all three of them. This is going to make you what? Memorize all three forms. So when you do your homework, you're going to do the beginning tha 25 times each. You're going to do the middle tha 25 times each. You're going to do the ending tha 25 times each. And you're going to do the connecting thas, all three forms. Connecting, you're going to do them 10 times each. All right? And it makes it easy for you to memorize this. All right? Then the second part of your homework is to go into the Quran. Identify. All right? Go into the Quran. All right? You might see in a verse in the Quran, Allah says, all right, thawaba, right? But you automatically, even if you don't know the word, you can't read the word, that's not our focus. Our focus is what? Our focus is on the letter. What letter is this? We know that this is a beginning tha. It's a tha. What type? A beginning tha. What letter is this? We know that this is an Aleph. Right? We can point that it's an Aleph. What letter is this? We know that this is a ba. What type of ba? A beginning ba. What letter is this? This is an Aleph. All right? It's an ending Aleph. Okay? So these are the things you want to do. When you start learning the letters, you want to go in the Quran, start readily identifying the letters you're learning. Okay? And you're going to be able to do it. Don't worry about it. Be patient. When we get to the vowels, when we get to different things, you're going to start learning more stuff. All right? And you're going to be able to, you know, point them out in the Quran, and you're going to be able to put it together. And then it's going to be like, okay, this is easy. It's not hard as some people make it. It's just the focus. Okay? It's just the focus. All right? So tha, where does it come from? It is a harful lisan. All right? So it comes from the tongue. You might say, how is that possible, brother? Okay? Because you're using the tongue. But where do the tongue go at? It protrudes through the two front teeth. And one of the characteristics of it is that it has air on it. It's like breath. So when you say it, it's soft. Tha, it's tarakik, okay? It's soft. These are terminologies used in tajweed, but it's still soft, okay? Thalatha, thalatha, right? Thawaba, okay? Thulaj, etc. So the tha should have breath on it. Tha, and it protrudes. The tip of the tongue protrudes. Tha, tha, tha. It's how you want to say the tha, okay? It has air on it. So it comes from the lisan. So far, we said that the lisan have 10 letters. We covered 2 so far. Ta and tha comes from the lisan. That leaves us with 8 more letters to cover from the tongue, okay? From the tongue, and it has breath on it. What's important, brothers and sisters, is that you have to remember we have a wealth of information out there. There are tons and tons of books in the English language with the Arabic language being taught. There are tons of videos on the internet of free source material being taught, classes, very good classes that are being taught. The issue is, without a plethora of all of that information, how far are we getting with learning the Arabic? And why aren't we getting it with all of that? Why? Because there are key things you need. You need a pure intentions while you're doing it. Okay? You also understand you need discipline, which plays a part in your focus. All right? You have to be disciplined, you have to be focused, and you have to study towards a more organized way, which is called a system, a structure. All right? Most of the times, with all of those information, all that information being out there, it become information overload. You become overwhelmed, all right? Because you don't have a structure. Where do I start at? How do I make it easy for me to digest? Do I start here? Do I start there? You understand? So it makes it confusing. But when you start, it's important that you don't stop. This is major, major. When you finally get to the point that you're ready to start, then it's important that you don't stop. If you stop, it indicates a lack of sincerity on your behalf. And it also shows that your intention has been spoiled or corrupted. Do you understand? So when you do finally start, don't stop. All right? It have to be a continuous, or continuity. It have to be a continual process, and it's ongoing. You're going to be learning new principles as you go. You're going to still have to hold on to the old principles that you covered. You understand? So this is why it's important that your knowledge be one body, collective, and not be scattered. Some people scatter because they start an Arabic class, they start an Arabic program, they do 2 weeks, or they might finish half of the book, and the next thing you know, they done. You don't see them for 4 or 5 months. You don't see them for 6 months. And then they say they want to jump back in, and they done lost most of the stuff they got from the half of the book. Now they say they want to jump into this other program because these other brothers or these other sisters are telling, look, she's a real good teacher. He's a real good teacher. And they're using a new book. So then you jump on the new Jones and you go get a new book. It's like a new pair of shoes, like a new device. You jump on the new thing. But you didn't complete what you started from the first time. And it become confusing. And we seen this when we was in Egypt. And it was astonished because when I got to Egypt, I met a brother. He was from Buffalo, New York, I think. Yep, that's where he's from. And I met this brother, and he was telling us an interesting story that he, how he was studying there. He'd been there 6 months before I got there, and he was saying how he learned Ajurumiyya. He memorized, and to me, I was like, subhanAllah, he memorized Ajurumiyya. It's a beginning grammar book, but I'm like, alhamdulillah, that's nice. But then as he started to explain, he didn't understand Ajurumiyya, right? And he gave me some golden advice himself, because this is what messed him up in the 6 months he'd been there, is that he wasn't completing everything because he was jumping from one class to another class. Right? They was telling him that, Sheikh so-and-so is teaching, or this person is teaching, and he'd jump over here and he'd jump over there. Consistency, brothers and sisters. Consistency is important. You must finish. So when you start, don't stop. See it to the end. Okay? Keep your knowledge organized. Have a structure. And you're going to be able to get this stuff. And it's going to be easy for you to keep it. So if you're taking this program and you're studying this program, you will not lose it. Let's finish it We're going to get to the end. We're going to learn all of the different things we need. Hopefully by the time we've done this program, you will know how to read. I've done my job. You will know how to at least read a word. All right. You should know how to write if you take it more seriously and start writing. All right. Doing the exercise, doing the homework. You should also know where each letter comes from because we're teaching you that as well. All right. So you are learning 3 things in one. You are learning the points, which is a part of tajweed, of the source of articulation where the letter comes from. You're learning also kitaba, all right, writing, because we're doing exercise where you write the words down. And you're also learning what else? So you're learning 3 things in one. You're learning writing and you're learning qira'ah. You're going to learn how to read. So you're learning 3 things in one by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala. That's what we was able to bring today with al-harfu tha, which is the 3rd letter. Also, what I want you guys to do for homework, just write it out 5 times. The Aleph, the Ba, the Ta, right? And the Tha, because we cover 4 letters so far. So write them down on your notebook, just like that. Aleph, Ba, Ta, Tha. Aleph, Ba, Ta, Tha. Why? Because it's going to make you keep it there, organized, to memorize the letters in order. Okay? Aleph, Ba, Ta, Tha. All right? Remember, Aleph doesn't make a sound. Okay? Inshallah ta'ala. Whatever we said that was incorrect is definitely from ourselves. Whatever we said correct is from Allah Jalla wa Ala. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallahu khair.